My name is Ravi Kodukula. I head learning and organization development at JP Morgan Chase and Company at the India Global Service Center here in Mumbai. The views that I'm going to express today are my own based on my professional experience over the last many years of having worked with organizations like mine, and the organization does not subscribe to any of these views. I want to talk to you today about leadership qualities or qualities of a leader. Now, obviously, that's a vast ocean of a subject, and you pick up any book on leadership or you go to any seminar on leadership, you would find many characteristics, traits, behaviors of a leader. Having read many of the books about great leaders in the world from the past, you would also have known a good number of those traits as talked about for them. Whether it is Gandhi, whether it is Mandela, whether it is the more contemporary leaders, good or bad, based upon public perceptions, each leader brings a host of traits and characteristics to his or her own life. Now, when we talk about leadership in organizations, particularly corporate organizations, there are three things that I want to talk to you today about which stand out for me based upon my past experience and perspective. So, here's the first one. I think integrity. I know many of these values that we talk about are very reflective, very personal in their characteristic for each one of us, but integrity is one of the values that truly stands out for a leader. So what do we mean by integrity, and how is that different than another value that we most normally know, which is honesty, for example? Honesty and integrity fairly walk hand in hand, but the essential difference between the two is the moral discipline and the moral principles that we bring to the table. Now, as leaders in organizations, we know we bring a lot of honesty to the table because we come to the organizations to do a good job. We know we abide by the organizational values, organizational ethics, organizational culture, and the decisions that we take in organizations. And when you step into many of these organizations that I'm talking about, it really helps to understand how do we then practice many of these values, and particularly integrity. Integrity to me is the coordination between our thoughts, our actions, and our speech. Not particularly in that order, but our thoughts normally translate into what we say. And obviously, the bedrock of our thoughts are our values. Now, when we look at our values and our value system, which we build over a period of time, particularly through our childhood and through institutions, the first of which is the family which we are born into, then our scholastic institutions, that is the schools, then we step into our work lives, our friend circles, and when we get into work institutions, there is a host of the values that really drive our behaviors. Our thoughts are based on our values and beliefs. Then when we look at those thoughts converting into speech, we say what we think most normally, and then we do what we say. Now, if there is a dissonance between these three, we say something and we do something else, that is a dissonance, or that's the difference between being or practicing integrity or being integral or not practicing integrity. The way it manifests, the way the rest of the world sees this is when you say something and when you don't stick to that, when you don't do it, then that is a disaster. It's a recipe for disaster, and that could derail your corporate careers. So please think through what integrity could mean for yourselves, and then look at how you would want to practice that. The second quality of a leader that I want to talk about today is being proactive. Now, what does that mean in English? Being proactive is to be able to take a first step towards doing anything that needs to be done. And what needs to be done or what's worth doing is always worth well doing. What I mean by that is when you take on something to do, give it your best shot. And obviously, there are always going to be instances when we may not be able to do it to either the best of our capability or the best of our knowledge, best of our skills, but there's always a room to improve upon those skills, knowledge, and competencies. Now, how do we do that in organizations like mine, for example? You take something proactively, you put your hand up and say, I want to do this because it's important for me, it's important for the organization, it's important for for the larger good, perhaps even to the larger society in which we live. For example, you might see a project coming up, and the project can very well use your skills, which you have acquired over a period of time, which you have developed, which you have honed, which you have learned in your business school or maybe in your technical school. And then when you step into the organization like this one, so what you might want to then say is, hey, you know what, this project is in tune with what I can deliver best. So you take that project on and then look at how you can best deliver on that. But you need to have the energy and your proaction or proactiveness to be able to put your hand up and say, I want to do this. That would be proaction for me, proactiveness. The third quality that I want to talk to you about today is taking ownership. Now, that could mean various things in various walks of life. For example, at home, you take a lot of decisions, which are a part of your family, for example. You take ownership to pay the electricity bills. These days, a lot of stuff can be done digitally. But if you have to stand in a queue and pay an electricity bill, which many of you may not know because you have grown up in a digital age, but if you have to do that, if you have to really run an errand in the family for your mother or your father or for the rest of the family, now you put your hand up and do that task to its completion. Now, that would then mean I'm not leaving anything left unturned or left undone so that the others have to do it for me or others have to do the job. Similarly, say in a corporate organization, when you put up your hand to do something, you take full ownership of doing it end to end. Whether you need to work with people, whether you need to work with tools, resources, systems, processes, you go figure that out for yourself. And of course, there's a host of resources in the system that really helps you in organizations. Your boss definitely is one of them. Your colleagues, that is your peers, for example. And when you grow a little bolder and you take on people management responsibilities over a period of time, then your teams or your team members that report into you, that work with you, those are the people that you can use as resources who can really help you complete some of these things. But the question is, are you taking the ownership of that specific project or that specific task that you have taken on? So that would be the biggest accountability that would rest on you. Here is where I would also want to talk about ownership in terms of responsibility and accountability. Now, what's the difference between the two? For example, at my home or in my work organization, I may have tasks for which I'm responsible. For example, the rest of the family or the rest of my team looks upon me to complete that task. That is my responsibility. Whether the task is done exactly the way it needs to be with quality output and have I really completed it and closed it is my accountability. So, please be responsible for what you take on in your corporate organizations, but at the same time, please be aware that when you take something on and are responsible for that task or set of activities, projects, whatever you would want to call them, you are also accountable to finish them, complete them to the satisfaction of all the stakeholders. Your stakeholders could be your customers who are out there in the market. Your stakeholders could be your team members or other teams that work with you. Or your stakeholders could be the end shareholder as well, whose share price or whose shareholder value is something that you're driving through your actions as a corporate citizen. So I've talked to you today about 3 qualities of a leader. I've talked to you about demonstrating integrity. And in summary, what I would say, demonstrating integrity is what you say you will do and what you do, what you said. The number 2 quality that I talked to you about is being proactive. which is essentially demonstrating energy so that you are putting up your hand before probably anybody else, because it uses your skills, your knowledge, your experience, your competencies. Number 3 that I talked to you about is taking ownership. Now, when you take ownership, it is about how you start a task, be responsible for the task or activity, and then complete that in a quality fashion end to end. I love talking to you today. Thank you very much. I hope these 3 qualities of a leader are going to be useful to you in your corporate life when you step into corporate organizations. Have a great day. Thank you.